Good morning and welcome to today. We're going to review for our test that's covering 9.5 and 9.6. Let's start off with a couple of easy questions. Let's go ahead and sing our quadratic formula together, please. The quadratic formula on three. 1, 2, 3.
X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a.
Good job. And then we should be able to list the 3 steps to completing the square. Who can list the first step? Yes.
B over 2.
Divide b by 2. Take 1/2 of b, or b over 2. Step 2. Yes.
Find the square of b over 2.
Not the square root, but square b over 2. So you're going to take b over 2, and you're going to square it, and step 3 is you're going to add to each side. So we take half of b, then we square half of b, and we add it to each side. Are we good with that? Okay, let's find the value of c. Find the value of c that will make the trinomial a perfect square trinomial. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a major hint. C is always a positive number. So don't give me any negative answers tomorrow for C. Okay, let's give you an example here. X squared minus 18x plus c. X squared minus 18x plus c. So the first step is we're going to identify b is equal to negative 18. Step 1, take half of it. So negative 18 divided by 2 gives me a negative 9. Step number 2, we are going to square what we just got when we took 1/2 of b. A negative 9 squared equals what? 81. So what does c equal? That is all you are responsible for. Does anyone have a question on how to find the value of c that would make a trinomial a perfect square trinomial?
So is the perfect square trinomial the same thing as completing the square?
No. A perfect square trinomial is not the same thing. We did not do the whole process on completing the square. Remember, that's an Algebra 2 concept. All I needed to teach you was how to find the value of c to make it a perfect square. So let me just go ahead and remind you the reason that x squared minus 18x plus 81 is a perfect square trinomial, because when you go to factor it, it factors into 2 equal factors. It would be x minus 9 times x minus 9, or x minus 9 quantity squared. Okay? Do you need me to do another one? Let's do one more. Example, again, find the value of c that makes the trinomial a perfect square trinomial. Here we go. X squared plus 22x plus c. So what does b equal, class? B equals 22. So we're going to take half of that. 22 divided by 2 gives me what? 11. Then we're going to square it. And what do you get? So c equals 121. Okay? Solve quadratic equations by quadratic formula, factoring, or square root property. You can actually solve them any way you want, guys, okay? Yes? So feel free to do it any way you want on the test, even if the question says use the quadratic formula. If it can be factored and zippered, that's a much easier way to do it. So let's just do x squared minus x minus 20 equals 0. And I'm going to do it two ways for you. So I'm going to use two methods. The first method is the easy method, which is I'm going to factor it. And the reason I can factor it is because there are two numbers that multiply to negative 20 and add to negative 1. That would be negative 5 and positive 4. Watch. Negative 5 times 4 is negative 20. Negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1. Now, those are not your answers. Those are just the factors. So this would be x minus 5 equals 0. Remember, now you have to use the zero product property rule that we abbreviate as zipper. And when you do that, you get two solutions. You get x equals 5 and x equals negative 4. Now remember what I told you when we taught this last week, that if you x factor, you can remember that whatever is here, your answer is the opposite. So it's the opposite of negative 5 and it's the opposite of positive 4. So it would be negative 4. 5. Okay, so that's method number 1. Method number 2 would be to solve it by using the quadratic formula. Make sure one side always equals 0. Identify A, B, and C. Go ahead and plug them in to the quadratic formula. Excuse me. Thank you. So you get 1 plus and minus 9 over 2, which gives me 1 plus 9 over 2, which is 10 over 2, or 5. And then we get 1 minus 9 over 2, which is a negative 8 over 2, which is a negative 4. So you get, you get the same answer no matter what you do. Well, 10 over 2 should be reduced to 5. Okay. Okay? Are we good on the quadratic formula? Then the last thing we talked about was the discriminant. The discriminant. What is the discriminant? Who could tell me what the discriminant is? Yes. Okay, that's a good one, but I'm looking for something a little bit more specific. You are correct, technically, but that's not going to get you full points. Matt? It's the value of b squared minus 4ac. Good job. It's helpful. What does it do? Yes. It can determine the number of roots without you using the quadratic formula. Okay. And then we talked about 3 cases. If b squared minus 4ac equals 0, how many roots are there, guys? 1 root. If b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, there are And if b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, no real roots. Good job. So the questions here will be, state the value of the discriminant, and the number of roots. Okay, so let's take one example real quick. X squared plus 4x plus 3 equals 0. Let's identify A, B, and C. What does A equal, class?
1.
What does B equal?
4.
What does C equal? So we're going to plug that in to b squared minus 4ac. So we're going to get 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 3, 4, 16 minus 12, which gives me what? Okay, so the value of the discriminant is 4, and based on what we have right here, we should know if you get a positive number, how many roots do you have? 2 roots. And we are done. Does that help? Okay, so for those that are listening, I just want to make a comment and say that there are 20 questions on the test. 4 of them are multiple choice. 16 of them are free response. There are probably several questions that are this easy, where you just have to find the value of C. Okay? There's a couple you can solve any way you want. There's about 3 or 5. Find the value of the discriminant. But if you're in honors, you have a whole extra page, which is short answers and definitions. So if I were you, I'm just going to be very, very straightforward and upfront. I would know everything in 9.5 and 9.6. So this concludes our review for today. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for listening. And study hard.